Hey everybody, welcome back. We're going to take a look today at simple checkpoints. And by simple checkpoints, I mean placing the character back to a particular location while the world runs around them. This is not going to cover things like loading the scene or keeping track of progress and data. So let's get started. For us to be able to control the player resetting properly, we also have to account for the player being destroyed properly. So we're going to come into our framework and start with our player character. Inside of our player character, we're going to create a bind to the event on destroy for the character. So with the character class selected, we can go to on destroy, and it's going to look to bind the event down here to when the character is destroyed. And so we're just going to set this up as respawn. So I'm going to have this up and above our movement because this needs to be called from somewhere. The only way to guarantee it will always be called is to run it from begin play. So if I hold down the P key and I click, then I'll get event begin play. And then after this, we can call respawn. Now, respawning happens when the player doesn't exist and the game would like to create a player. This is something that occurs inside of the game mode. So we're going to get our game mode. And we're going to use the built-in functions for game mode to be able to spawn our character. So one of the things that we want to do is that we're going to spawn the character. We're going to restart the player. So if we say restart player, we can restart the player, which will use whatever was the previously designed spot for it to start. If you have only one spawn point or there's other logic for that, then it'll use that. If we want to restart the player at a specific spot, then we can call that, or we can put it at a specific transform. So the player start is going to look for an object, and we're going to use that as our spawn reference. So I'm going to use this. So when the player dies, we're going to try and restart the player at a specific spot. For the new player reference, it's looking for a controller. So we just do get player controller. And then for the start spot, what we're going to do is promote that to a variable, and we're just going to hold on to that so that we can modify it later. That's all we need to do in the player character. We're going to need to set up a specific object to allow us to respawn. So I'm going to go into my gameplay folder here, and we're going to create a new blueprint class, and we're going to inherit it from the start player object. We're just going to call this BP checkpoint. And inside of the checkpoint, you can see I already have a capsule collision. That shows where the player is going to spawn and all the logic to handle showing good sprite or bad sprite if the capsule is inside of the wrong space. So I'm going to add one thing to this. We're going to add a box collision. And I'm just going to call that trigger. And we want to increase the size of this just a little bit. We're going to make this 200 cube. So I'm going to make the box extents 100 by 100 by 100, which is 100 from the center on the left and the right, the top, the bottom, the front, and the back, which gives us a net 200. If I have both of these objects selected, you can see it's pretty flush with the character's capsule. All right, we're going to jump over to our event graph. Inside of this, we want to have this box collision be the point of reference for when we mark this as a checkpoint. So we're going to go on component begin overlap for the box trigger. And what we're going to do is we're going to check the other actor, and we're going to do a cast to the player character. And this is going to tell us whether or not it was the player that activated the checkpoint rather than an enemy or a bullet or a falling rock or something like that. And since we have our character, we're going to go ahead and say set start spot, because that was a variable that we created now. And we can just configure that to reference self. All right, so with self-reference, this will tell the respawn when to load that. So if I have the player die, well, I need to actually set the spawn in the world. If there's no area in the world, it'll just handle the pi condition. But when we go to respawn the character, I just place this object in the world. Let's place it here and rotate it in the correct direction that we want. And then when I play, I'll spawn here, and if I die, then I'll respawn exactly at that spot. So if I wanted to, I could make a midair checkpoint, spawns here, and as I spawn, it'll take me right back there exactly. So this is handy if you only have one spawn point in your level. However, this becomes problematic if you have multiple spawn points. For example, here, if I go to play, I can spawn at the third, the second, the third again, the second, back and forth. Here's the fourth checkpoint, third checkpoint, forth. You can see it's random because the system doesn't know in what order to select these checkpoints. So if you have multiple checkpoints, we want to find a way to be able to discern what order they should go in and which one was the most recent checkpoint to reference. So we're going to go back into our checkpoint actor, and inside of this we're going to create a variable. Just a variable, we're going to call this index, and this is going to help keep track of our order of when things should be added into the world. And we're going to expose this just so we can manually control this if necessary in the editor. So we have this index, and then we want to make sure that we can control which index is going to show up as distinct. We want index 0 to be our launch point, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 after that. If they're all 0, then it's just as non-distinct as having them not have an index at all. So we're going to do this by creating a editor function. I'm going to go up to functions and click add, and we're just going to call this reset checkpoint indices. So with this set up, I want to make sure I can call an editor. This is going to allow me to use this function at design time to help me build and organize information inside of the game. I can call this function some other time as well during gameplay, but this is one that this checkbox will allow me to run it as a designer, like a tool that faces the designer, rather than having to build a custom tool that manages these things separately. I can build it right into the asset. In this function, we're going to take our current index and we're going to set it to 0. And then we're going to get all checkpoints, all actors of class that are of type checkpoint. And we're going to see this is going to return an array of actors. And so we need to do a for each on this. And the for each loop is going to say, okay, for each one of the actors that we found, we're going to run this code. And so we're just going to do this. We're going to say not equals. So if the actor that we're looking at is not equal to the actor that we set as the original actor, then we're going to run our code that says for each one of these things, set that actor's index to the current array index plus 1. And so if our current actor is going to be set to 0, then any other actor cannot be 0, and they're going to step through all of the actors, and they're going to be at least one above the previous one. If this is not the last actor, your current actor is not the last actor, then it'll skip one number, but they will always be distinct within that set. So if I come back and I look at my arrays, you can see these are my checkpoints. These are all 0, 0, and 0. And I have my function that I created right here. I'll say reset checkpoint indices. So this one's still 0, but now this one is 3, and this is 2, and this is 1. And I can reset checkpoints here. This is 0, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So in this way, I have a quick tool that will allow me to separate which index each one has. However, this hasn't actually informed the game on which one to select. It just gives us a way to distinguish between them. For us to actually choose where the player start is going to be allocated, then we need to go into the game mode. Inside of the player, if you'll recall, we reference the game mode to restart the player. That's a game mode function. So when I go into the game mode, you'll notice that there's also the find player start. So when I go to the functions here, we can do find player start. This is going to determine which one is going to be at the beginning part of the game. Now we can choose player start as well. This is for the initial. You could really use either of these depending on what you're doing. If it's network play, if people are responding within an ongoing match, then you may want to look at these differently. But choose player start. You have this return node, which is going to serve us well. We're just going to pass back the information of which one to choose. So we're going to start by get all actors of type checkpoint. And with the checkpoint set, we're going to go for each. And I could use the break here and pass information back and forth, but if I use a return node inside of a function like this, this is the same as using a break. It will stop the loop once we return out of this function. So we're going to get the array index, and we're going to get the array item, and we're going to get the index, and we're going to check to see if it is equal to 0. And if it is equal to 0, then we'll pass that object back in. If I can connect these. All right. And so we can see when it goes to choose the player start, it's going to get all the checkpoints, go through them, find the one that has the index of 0, and then make that our spawn point. So if I come back to my level, I have the spawn point, always spawn point at the first spawn point. If I set the indices over here, then I'll have that spawn point. Now, if we run into an issue where the designer is being a little bit sloppy, we may want to say, hey, if none of these returns a value, then we probably want to raise a script error. It says no initial checkpoint. And so if I come over here and I reset it to this one, and then I set this to 27, and then I go to play the game, it'll kick me over here, and I'll get this error, raise script error, no initial checkpoint, and I get that feedback that tells me, hey, there was a problem inside of my design. So this is going to be a catch to make sure that I'm doing the right things and using the tools the right way. So I can reset checkpoint indices. There we go. So now that reset checkpoint happens, I should be able to go in and out, and it'll always give me that exact spawn. Again, this is a remedial look at checkpoints. There's a lot more we could do with streamed levels, dynamic resources being added to and spawned inside of a level, save games, things like that. But this will hopefully get you started in where you need to go and allow you to get out there and keep building.